Thank you, everyone.
It's in your best interest
Welcome
to
to
agree
the
with
August
that.
12th meeting of the Finance Committee meeting. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. Edna, Evelyn, on the second, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Approved, thank you. Let's move on to the action agenda. Item 3.1, request for a transfer of funds attached for committee approval. Evelyn on the motion. Bud Taylor on the second. Any discussion? There being none, are we ready for the question? All those in favor of 3.1 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 3.1 is carried. Item 3.2, request from the Treasurer's Office. I'm showing none. Is that correct, Mike?
That's correct, sir.
All right, anything? We're good, very good. Item 3, referral from the Criminal Justice Committee, Public Defender. Request to amend the county budget to increase estimated revenues and appropriations in the amount of $75,117 to reflect the receipt of funds from year one distribution of upstate quality improvement and caseload reduction grant from the Office of Indigent Legal Services, contract number C000652. Mr. Sokol on the motion, Evelyn on the second. Any further discussion?
Just a question, wasn't that number up around 200,000 a few years ago?
The grants come in various amounts.
Yeah.
So, but the
So this
200.
is the total amount for the year?
No, this is just one of the grants that they're getting for one of the years. But the 200,000 that we used to get before they started all this grants for new services, that's true, that we used to get a $200,000 sum that we could just simply apply. They've taken away all of that money. I think we were down to the last 56,000 either this year or last year. This year, Mike, was it the last 56?
Yeah.
And then now what they're doing is you have to apply for each of these grants every time, and it has to be for new services. Like she's doing the 6th public defender that she talked about at personnel, and there's various things that they've gotten grants for. This is just one of them. But certainly the system now does not work as well for the county finances as the old system did.
Any further discussion? There being none, are we ready for the question? All those in favor of item 3 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 3 is carried. Item 4, referral from the Gaslight Village Ad Hoc Committee. Request to increase capital project H3389550280 Lake George Environmental Park in the amount of $256,934.98. Chair will entertain a motion to bring this to the floor for discussion. Mr. Dickinson on the motion. Ms. Wood on the second. Thank you, Evelyn. Discussion. What do we have here? What, anyone want to amplify on this?
It's grant funding. I'm having trouble remembering. I think is it for the parking lot? It's EFC funding.
I know it's all part of the overall plan, and
Right.
they've got so many grants going on with this project. I'm not 100% sure which one this is. I can have that if you want to postpone it, Mr. Chairman, I can have that information obtained.
It's grant funding, $163,290.
Yeah, if you turn to page 3, you'll at least see a breakdown on the 256.
Right. I believe it's the pavement of the parking lot using porous pavement. I'm not positive though, but I think that's what it is.
Well, what's the pleasure of the committee on this? Is this...
I suggest that we pass it tentatively, subject to confirmation by the county attorney or county administrator before the full board meeting. It's exactly what it's for.
Mr. Dickinson, Ms. Wood, would you amend your resolution?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, the motion, thank you. So the motion as revised would include that verification that Mr. Monroe specified for the record. Any further discussion? There being none, are we ready for the question? All those in favor of item 4 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 4 is carried. Item 5, referral from the Park Operations and Management Committee, request to appropriate funding in the amount of $4,522.08 from budget code 691.07, deferred revenue Gaslight Village fees to budget code A 1625-470, Gaslight Village property, to reimburse the Village of Lake George for various maintenance and event expenses at the Charles R. Wood Park Festival space. Chair will entertain a motion to bring this to the floor. Mrs. Dickinson and Mr. Molino on the second. Thank you, Gene. Any discussion? There being none, are we ready for the question? All those in favor of item 5 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Item 5 is carried. Referral from the Public Works Committee. DPW request to decrease capital project H258.9550 Tannery Bridge over Stony Creek in the amount of $55,633.32.
I'll move A through E.
We have a motion to move A through E under item 6. Is there a second? Mr. Molino on the second. Thank you. Any further discussion? There being none, are we ready for the question? All those in favor of the motion to approve items 6, A through E, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 6 is A through E is carried. Requests items to be discussed by the county administrator. We should pass a resolution, just to be specific, to backfill the position that Heidi has in the Human Resources Department. For a simple motion? Jackie, what I'm saying, Heidi, that's her mother. Is Jackie in the department, anything more in the motion required?
We'll need to eventually set the salary for the new position, but I haven't had a chance to work that through with Jackie yet. But if we could have that information available for the board meeting.
Ready? Mr. Dickinson on the motion. Is there a second? Ms. Wood on the second. Any further discussion to backfill the position? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Any other items from the county administrator?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, we have the standard journal report that we provide on the transfers that my office has been authorized to handle on your behalf. And each month I point out the ones that may catch your eyes, as they do mine, in terms of large amounts. You'll see on the second page of the report, this would be they're on the front and back, so this would actually technically be the third page, I suppose. Under DPW, there's a $50,000 transfer, which they were able to do within their codes, but you may wonder what that is for. That's for a rental of a paver. Their paver broke down and they had to rent a paver to finish paving. The next one is on the back side of that page. You'll see an $8,100 transfer, which here again might catch your eyes in the Office of Emergency Services, but again, this is a transfer within their budget code. They budgeted incorrectly between data usage and telephone. That's what happened there. On the very next page after that, there are a number of transfers in the Office of Emergency Services, but these were all done to fully expend out grant proceeds, and that's not unusual. The next page down, which would be the second to last full page, under Public Health, you'll see an expense in Public Health of $2,000. That's to purchase equipment for WIC, which was 100% reimbursable. Down at the bottom, the sheriff, and actually the sheriff on the next page and the back side of the page, you'll see a number of fairly large expenditures. Well, the first one is small. $2,000 was just to add some collision to some of his vehicles. But on the back side, you'll see some $20,000 and $25,000 expenditures. This was for the hot water tank leak, which I think everybody at this point probably knows about, and the vents repair. So they had to move money around in their code, and then they were reimbursed. I think it happened maybe at the last meeting where we funded it through contingency. So this is the cleanup on all of those items. Everything else is relatively small. The only comment I'll make on the other ones is that during the course of the budget reviews with the departments this upcoming session, we will talk to them a little bit about why we're having so many of these little small transfers. It's obviously errors in budgeting, and we'll try to just see if we can start to hone down and maybe eliminate some of those. But here again, nothing obviously really disastrous here. When you see supplies moving to data processing for $85, for instance, that's not of concern because it's still within the department budget. But we just like to try to find out why the budgeting isn't working out, a little better, so we will have those conversations.
Alrighty, Item 8, action is going to be required on items considered at the Personnel Committee on their agenda, items 2 through 5. The Chair will entertain a motion regarding this. Mr. Taylor, Evelyn Wood on the second. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor of approving item 8 as offered signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 8 is approved. Is there any other business to come before the committee? Motion to adjourn? Ms. Wood, Edna on the second. All in favor?
You got a hand over it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Rachel?
I'm sorry, we were talking about the Chamber of Commerce, but that was something that could be on the agenda, I guess, now for next month. We emailed back and forth about it for finance.
Paul?
There was, I think Supervisor Seaver had emailed about the Adirondack Regional Chamber of Commerce, to a few of us. I know I was on that email, maybe Frank, you were too. The county has an option of belonging to the Adirondack Regional Chamber. I believe it's in the vicinity of $500 or $600 for the year as a government entity. From my past experience, it does seem like that's an entity that it would be of value for Warren County to be part of, for two reasons. One is I think it would provide the county an opportunity to have that ability to communicate with the various businesses that are part of the regional and get a feel for what their concerns and needs are. I know we get it already, but as you can see from, like, Supervisor Merlino has been leading some round talks with businesses in the tourism area. I think they've been very helpful, and I think having regular contact with the Adirondack Chamber would be helpful in that regard. The other thing is I think the Adirondack Chamber would offer benefits to the county in terms of just some of the programs they put on and for our staff. So we were hoping that would be something that could be considered. We do have money in the contingency fund. If you wanted to fund that, we could move that from there to the Board of Supervisors contract funds. I don't know if Frank has any thoughts on that at all, as budget officer.
Yeah, from what Rachel explained to me, I think it would be a good fit for the county. There seems to be a lot of educational programs that not only the supervisors, but our department heads.
Actually, the better way to finance it, I think, or I would offer, is to authorize the membership through the tourism department. And let the tourism department pay for that through the tourism budget, and then each year they could budget that in their budget. Because there's quite a bit that goes on between the various chambers and the tourism department in particular. I would just offer that as another possible, not only funding source, but a way of administratively handling it.
I'll make a motion to that effect.
We have a motion
I think it's a good idea.
We have a motion for Mrs. Dickens, a second, Mr. Merlino. Anything more, Gene?
No, that's it. Do they do it from January 1st?
No, it's effective whenever you join for a period
You
of
can
12
do it.
months.
Oh.
But it did come up after support services when we met, with them, I believe it was Meals on Wheels, when they were looking for volunteers. And the chamber, has a very easy way, as most of you know, to send out an email looking for volunteers. But also, we talked about it in a job search, being able to reach even more, we spoke about it at tourism, local, agencies and businesses that perhaps we could be doing business with, by utilizing the chamber's listserv. But also, they said to that membership of 504, Washington County is a member. It's as many people as you want to put on the membership. So every supervisor, every department head, whatever employee, you can put as many people as you want on, and they'll all have those same benefits, for the 50, I think it's 504, I could be wrong.
Val?
Will this create pressure to join other chambers, like Lake George Chamber? Each community has a chamber.
Well, certainly, you could be approached by other chambers. I think the one argument for the Adirondack Regional is that it's a regional chamber, and the nature of the organization kind of makes sense, I think, for Warren County for all the reasons that have been discussed. It's not to say that we couldn't join other chambers, but, I think the regional nature would be the argument of why we did this one.
Bud?
If I'm not mistaken, I think the membership fee is based on numbers of employees. How much are we talking about here anyway?
But just so you know, I did confirm with the chamber that because it's a government membership, it would be set up just like other municipalities. So for that flat municipality fee, it's not based on this. As many people as you wanna put on that membership, it's not limited.
How much?
I believe it's 504, it might be 54, I'm not positive, I did send that information on though. So it seems like a pretty good value.
But that would come through the tourism department, it'd be evaluated through the tourism department. That's why I think that's the better avenue for that. I think that's why I think the motion makes a lot of sense to handle it that way, as opposed to bringing it to the board at large. Mr. Dickinson?
Just as a point here, the Lake George Chamber isn't actually the Lake George Chamber, it's the Lake George Regional Chamber. They would probably be the only other one, and I think we can do it on a as-come basis, whether or not we wanna join.
And we're also funding the
Yeah.
Lake George Chamber to a considerable degree in many different ways. One would think that we would at least get a membership out of it, but maybe that's something.
I'll check on that.
Yeah, we should Dennis check with Mike on that as to where
Sorry you brought that up.
where our membership. Frank, could you check into that as well to make sure we?
Pretty sure you're funding them, so.
Okay, to get a membership card,
Fair to get a membership
that would be a
All
good
right, how
thing.
many want membership cards?
Alrighty, well, I think it's a good thing to do, and I know Gene, I know you attend a lot of their activities, and Dennis, as well, and, so I think we have a pretty good plug-in from the board perspective as well.
Well, if this passes now, then it'll go to the full board, but it should be referred back to the tourism committee.
I believe I believe that this should be reported back to tourism, absolutely, and, when it happens, alrighty, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? There being none, are we ready for the motion? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carried. Alrighty, we had a motion to adjourn, did we not? That we allayed. Any other business? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
You-
Dennis, what happened to that festival, that's the same?